The Succession War just seriously amped up. Kurapika is back at the helm of the series, and yes, there's a whole ton of princes happening here, politicking and scheming and intriguing. And look, don't quite worry if you're not following along, because a lot of what's happening here is an escalation of material that was put to page like 4 years ago. So I will clarify and contextualize everything, because what is happening right now is so damn exciting. Also, Hunter x Hunter's next hiatus has been announced, but don't despair because this announcement actually came with some exceptionally good news, which I will get to later. But we initially kick off with a crossover troop scene, directly picking up from the last chapter on the hunt for the Heoli. It's quite bittersweet because it seems like this is the last we'll be seeing of that story thread for a while, because the rest of the chapter goes pretty balls deep back into Prince territory, but Finks and Phaeton had a fun little exchange regarding N. Essentially the idea that using N in a crowded place is just a bad idea, because while it spreads your aura giving you all of the informations, it also alerts any other N user to your presence and thus makes you a pretty big target. The reason why this is relevant though is because we seem to be implying that Finks has quite a wide range of N, because the Heoli base is anywhere from 100 to 200 meters away on the radar. And according to Nobunaga way back in chapter 94, the range of someone who has mastered N tends to be around the 50 meter mark. But that is for someone who has seriously honed their Nen craft. Not just any old scrub can reach that mark, and it would seem that Finks is a bit above average in this particular area. However, it comes with problems. He can spread his aura quite far, I guess, but he seems to lack the concentration to keep it up, which is one of those things that really puts into perspective just how much of an N god Xenozoldyck is, as he can extend his N up to 300 meters. And then you have just stupid existences like Pito, who can extend up to 2 whole kilometers. Also, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, the game featuring over 650 unique champions from different factions to collect. And collect I shall, because we are gonna crack some sacred shards. So these give us epic or legendary champions, and bam, look at that, it is a clawed beast feeder, fully equipped with beast that I imagine is going to be fed potentially to another beast. And we have a miscellaneous elf dude. That looks cool, I suppose. But this is what I'm talking about. It's a big old bear. I love it. He is my new favorite everything. Also, Raid's just released a legendary champion based off MMA and pro wrestling legend Ronda Rousey, and you can get Ronda for free simply by playing Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th. Plus, Amazon Prime members can get their exclusive rewards in Raid right now. Also, use the promo code RAIDRONDA to get a ton of helpful stuff like a 3-day 100% XP boost, 500k silver, and 5 energy refills. And there's more. New players use my link or scan the QR code to get a free starter pack worth almost $30, a free champion Ina, and this cool in-game loot. You'll find your rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you, me. But Nobunaga then catches up with them, because apparently Finks and Phaeton did practically nothing while he was away. But they ascertain a bit of a twist here, being that the Heoli base is almost certainly on tier 2, which I like because it gives us a good reason to get in and explore that final tier. And I also think it's great writing on the part of Togashi, who constantly has his characters referring to the Heoli conflict as a bit of a side quest, with the main plot of course being to reach Hisoka. But the way it's weaved is quite brilliant, because in order to reach Hisoka on the upper tiers, we do first need to complete this side quest to secure passage to those levels. And it makes me wonder if this was the actual goal of both the Jiyu and Char families to begin with when it came to Hisoka. They said they wanted to find him to preserve balance, but what's actually happened is that they've placed Hisoka in an unreachable location, one that they're practically dangling in front of the Phantom Troop in order to ensure that they fight the Heoli. It's quite clever, because otherwise no one would care and they would just head straight for the main story. Nobunaga also suggested that they bring Franklin, which, yes, that is an amazing idea. Good thinking, Mr. Samurai Man. Because Finks, Phaeton, and Nobunaga are the exact wrong troop members to try and bust into this base. But then there's the emergency broadcast, and I think this is what's going to haunt me most of all while we're on break. Because that such a thing, it's just such a kick in the nuts kind of cliffhanger. Something very bad has likely happened on tier 3, and we just won't know what it is for a long time to come. Because even with the next batch of chapters, we've clearly shifted away from the Mafia plot, so that's just wonderful, Togashi, thank you. Throwing ourselves mercilessly back into Kakin politics, we pick up with the Prince plot of 6th Prince Tyson, who, if you've forgotten, is the cult leader who plans to win the contest with her teachings of love and just love. So here's the thing, this whole section was really sweet. We get an introduction to Tyson's quirky role-playing bodyguards, then Izunami sees a win condition for the contest, and we even have this profound moment of very empathetic introspection for Tyson herself. And I trust absolutely none of it. I think what we're seeing here is Tyson's charm at work. People eventually succumb to her if they spend enough time around her, and Izunami is crumbling and playing right into Tyson's hands. Because by the end of this section, he is practically begging Tyson to have her teachings read at the banquet in front front of the king. Izunavi's thinking is that this war could probably be won quite peacefully if everyone just gets converted to the teachings of Tyson. However, I think that Tyson's teachings might be starting to inform his thinking, even though he hasn't read the book yet to the best of our knowledge, because Izunavi's entire arc on this ship has been him and the other guy just trying to resist reading the book of Tyson. The other guy being Giuliano, by the way, who crumbled like a bitch and is now a full-on Tyson convert. But that book is only one part of Tyson's inherent manipulation. And look, I don't know, it just strikes me as interesting that Izunavi is now actively fighting to spread the gospel of Tyson. He's become a sort of unwilling disciple. But next we cut back into what's happening in the sphere of 11th Prince Fugetsu. And this is where things are probably going to be most confusing for those who haven't touched this arc in a long time. Alright, wow, where do we even begin here? Because there are so many different threads crossing through this path. But the first woman we see is Queen Seiko, the mother of 10th Prince Kacho and 11th Prince Fugetsu. And she seems to know that Kacho is dead. That's interesting. Because not even Fugetsu knows that Kacho is dead, and Fugetsu was there when Kacho did the dying. Meanwhile, the Kacho we do see in this chapter is actually her guardian spirit beast called Without You, who took on Kacho's appearance after her death to continue helping Fugetsu, who honestly at this stage seems almost unhelpable. Because skipping ahead a bit, it is entirely possible that she is going to be the next prince to die. When Melody walks past her, she sees Fugetsu covered in these pretty disturbing spirit dudes, and Melody equates Fugetsu's status to an almost state of Zetsu, meaning that her aura and therefore her life force is bordering on undetectable. Now, a big plot point in this chapter going forward is Melody trying to figure out which nasty prince is doing this to Fugetsu. There's a bunch of interviews where third Prince Zhanglei shows up, and like, not to derail this too much, but that was actually real surprising. Usually the princes would send guards to do this kind of business for them, but no, not Zhanglei. Dude just showed up. And also Zhanglei gave Melody one of his patented coins. These are produced by his guardian spirit beast, and we still have no confirmation on exactly what they're for. Zhanglei himself seems to think that they will only activate after he wins the war and needs to distribute them for the good of the kingdom, but his guard had a counter theory, which was that they could be exchanged in some way for use during the war. In any case, I don't want to get too bogged down in Nencoin. Just needed to flag that Melody is now an investor in Nencoin, and that could be a very important plot point in the future. But as for which prince did this to Fugetsu, well, I had a lot of trouble saying that, but I am 99% certain that this is the work of Camilla, and more specifically her Legion of Have-Nots. This is the group of Nen curse users who spend months or even years thinking about their target, I suppose charging the curse, before one day committing suicide in order to enact the curse. And from there, the target's aura is just drained rapidly until a state of death is achieved. So they kill them. And it has been stated that in some cases, if the curse prep is strong enough, then a target can die within mere hours. Fugetsu here has deteriorated within a few days, but everything still lines up pretty perfectly with all the curse business of the have-nots. And I guess the particularly spooky thing is that Fugetsu may not have just one curse, because there's like 10 Nen spirits surrounding her, draining that life force, which is ever so important for life. And so it could be a whole legion of curses that have struck all at once to ensure her death. And if that is the case, then I don't think there is anything that can be done to save her. However, if it's just one curse, then maybe. You just need to find a Nen exorcist, except that's a problem, because the only Nen exorcist we know about aboard the Black Whale 1 also belonged to 2nd Prince Camilla's faction. So I could be wrong, but right now my money is on Prince Camilla being the mastermind here, and I don't feel too great for the future of Fugetsu. Unless Kurapika can do something, which he may because Melody is kind of summoning him, she's sending out the Kurapika signal at the end of the chapter, but unless he can do something, Fugetsu is without a doubt the next corpse to go into Nasabi's burial chamber. But also, Melody has her own problems to deal with, because right now the entirety of Tier 1 is aware of her Nen ability and just how useful it is for various day-to-day activities like, say, assassination. And as a result, she has a lot of princes interested in her, including a certain Saradnik, which is always disconcerting. And it's really not a good position to be in at all, because it will start out very civilized with each prince trying to court Melody to their side. However, the princes also know just how much of a threat Melody is if she's not on their side, which could lead to an understandable desire to eliminate her. And this whole situation is also a pretty extreme perversion of Melody's Hatsu, because the whole thing was designed to heal people, quite literally. It can cure some illnesses, but also to put them at ease and make, everything's nice now, as opposed to actual life. But the potential of which is seen by the princes as something of an anesthetic, I guess, to put people under in order to murder them. And then there's this guy, Kaizaru. He plays a very central role in this chapter for a guy that I honestly honestly forget if he's ever actually appeared before. Because this chapter is coming out just before Christmas, I didn't quite have the time to do the research that I would have normally, but he theoretically has no allegiance with the Karkian Empire. However, Melody suspects that Kaizaru is in league with one of the princes. And given the idea to assassinate each of the top 4, and Melody's thinking that it's unlikely to be one of the princes that tried to contact her, which are princes 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7, then that would narrow our prince pool down to 4. Of those 4, I would personally eliminate Mariam and Wobel because they just don't have that kind of influence due to the whole being a child thing, which leaves us with 6th Prince Tyson and 9th Prince Hawkenberg. And either one of them could be it. Perhaps Kaizaru has been exposed to Tyson's teachings, or he may even be politically aligned with Hawkenberg's vision or something like that. That or Melody's thoughts are wrong and it could be something completely different altogether. But I'm less inclined to believe that with Melody. Yes, Togashi does like to have logical characters come to the wrong conclusions in perfectly sound ways. However, Melody has something of a cheat sheet for Hunter x Hunter. Her abilities are very much like a roundabout way of mind reading. So I'm inclined to believe her conclusions much more so than your average character. Meanwhile, the chapter ends as promised with Kurapika taking the helm once more, and it showcases him agreeing to work with 5th Prince Tebeppa's faction, which is immediately intriguing because Tebeppa is also currently in league with Saradnik. So helping her is also very much furthering the 4th Prince's agenda. And as much as he probably doesn't know this, it's actually bringing Kurapika himself closer to Saradnik. So this is a case where Kurapika has kind of stumbled into helping his most major enemy of the arc, which is, it's not a great place to be. But this also may be relevant because Tebeppa's guardian spirit beast is a collaborative type. It requires a quote research partner to properly function, so this alliance may even see that role expanded upon. However, everything right now is converging in on the top princes. Princes 1, 2, and 3 in particular have everyone out for blood against them. However, that is assuming that the lower princes can actually survive long enough to actually get there to shed blood, which for quite a few of them, not looking great. And speaking of not looking great, yes, Hunter x Hunter is officially back on hiatus after chapter 400. However, do not despair because this isn't bad news at all. In the announcement, they state that the intention is to be publishing Hunter x Hunter in a format that isn't weekly going forward. What that means is currently up in the air. Could be monthly. I wouldn't mind monthly. But they also emphasize that Togashi is continuing to write the chapters. So the publication is on hiatus, but Togashi and his assistants are continuing to work, which is so much better than any other hiatus announcement. The announcement also makes clear that the intention is to support Togashi as best they can until the completion of the manga. I'll say that again, the completion of the manga. Meaning that everyone's eyes are on the prize of making sure that Hunter x Hunter actually finishes. What world do we live in where that is a possibility? So I think this is amazing news. And I would expect to be now taking a couple of months off, maybe even a few months off. But we know that chapters 401 through 404 are already in production and have in fact been in production for a while. So as painful as it is, I don't think that the wait will be too long this time. And I will of course keep you updated with all of the Hunter-based developments as they become known.